Good morning, Nat. How you doing?
Good morning, Freddie. I'm doing fine. It's exciting times here. We're about a week away from the elections. We got a whole slew of economic stuff coming out this week, which is going to have
Yeah,
something to do with. And I'm looking
yeah.
to the
Payroll
side.
report on Friday,
Yeah,
right?
I'm looking to the side, and I see the Dow Jones actually is in green today. So that's a pretty nice thing to see. Uh,
It's
Up
up
about
and
300
down every
points.
day. Nothing. I don't think there's in terms of the equity markets. There's something. There's a trend. I don't see a trend, and I know we're. Having said that, we are on the highs ever, but it seems like up one day, down the next, up one day, down the next.
Well, there's
You know,
definitely a trend in the Nasdaq with AI stocks, with Nvidia and all of those things. Nvidia, there's definitely a trend that way. I still think to some point with the Dow, and again, when we talk about the Dow, it's not the broad-based S&P. It's a lot easier to comprehend. The Dow just seems to get people focused. I think there's people taking profit. I still believe, we can go back and forth, and we probably will over the next 30 minutes go back and forth about who's going to win, who's going to not win, and all that other stuff. And I think there are very specific feelings by investors as to she wins or he wins, what it's going to mean to the economy, and what it's going to mean to stocks and all of that. We've talked about interest rates the last few weeks.
just the tax implications alone.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly.
capital gains tax are going to be raised. Are they going to do it retroactively? Even if somebody comes in on January, 20th and is inaugurated, are they going to go back and look at the previous? So if you're selling your stocks on January 10th, you're going to be subject to any capital gains taxes. They've done it before.
Yeah, and
Politicians have changed those tax policies retroactively. So
when we were on, the three of us with Timmy, we talked a little bit about the dollar, and I'm telling you, I in one of the companies that I write commentary for, they're interested in the Mexican peso, and every single day in my research on what's going on in the peso, besides highs and lows in the dollar mex,
mhm.
there's a comment about Trump winning, peso not devaluing, but going extremely under pressure because of the import tariffs that he's going to place on goods coming from Mexico. So it's in everybody's mind now. If you look at the dollar index instead of just looking at particular currencies, if you look at the dollar index trading around 104.30, it's come up in the last few weeks, and a lot of it has to do with the anticipation of a possibility of a Trump victory. So if Kamala Harris wins next Tuesday night, does the dollar index go from 104.30 to 103.30? It could. It very well could. The Mexican peso would definitely strengthen. When I look at all of this stuff, you can't help but think back to being a trader. If you were a trader, if you're sitting in a trading room right now without any of this Dodd-Frank nonsense regulations, and we could trade like we used to trade, would you be taking option positions? Where would you be putting? What would you be calling? What currencies would you think would strengthen based on your opinion as to who would win the election?
Yeah, I would be buying DXY puts. I'd be buying dollar puts, but because I
Hmm.
think regardless of who gets in, whether it's Harris or Trump, that there's going to be pressure on the dollar.
All right.
I've said this before. I think Trump is going to talk the dollar down. I know there's people feel that interest rates. I think he's going to push the Fed to lower the front end, but back end is going to be tougher to get. So I think there's going to be investment. It's going to be tougher to get investment back in this country.
Right.
Either way, you know,
No, no, I
either way.
agree. I agree. I
So
agree.
I'd be buying dollar puts overall going forward. And matter of fact, I do have some in the portfolio.
There you go. Okay.
Some UDN, not puts, but
Right.
some downside FXY
And
and UDN.
there's a couple of interesting things this week. I mean, all of the speeches that we saw last week from Fed board members, from presidents and regular board members, well, that all stopped. Obviously, Fed's in the blackout week this week. You won't hear any Fed comments. Excuse me, this week because they always do that the week before the meeting, and the meeting
Right.
starts. It just happens to be coincidentally the meeting starts next Tuesday. Every time I talk to people about Fed meetings, I remember how CNBC used to show Alan Greenspan walking into the Federal Reserve with his
With the
briefcase under his
briefcase.
arm, and was it
Yeah,
thick or thin? And
that's right.
when I used to tell that to my students, they'd look at me like I was crazy, and I'd said, "You have to remember, this was way before social media. You know, the
Yeah.
fact that you had a camera showing the Fed governor walking into a meeting holding a briefcase, that was big news. That was big news. You got the Japanese
And he,
elections.
and if I remember correctly, Greenspan had one. Um, he was a reporter for the New York Times and the Washington Post that would always get the inside scoop of what the Fed
That was
policy
Andrea
was going to
Mitchell.
be.
That was Andrea
No,
Mitchell. That
no,
was his
not
wife.
Andrea Mitchell. That's his wife. There was, it was an Asian reporter.
Oh, I
I
don't know.
forget the guy's name, and he would always have the leak from what the Greenspan Fed was leaning towards.
But
When that
you know, I
when that
mean,
article came out, you followed it.
Japanese elections over the weekend, they didn't get a majority, so now there's talk that the BOJ won't raise rates. They're going to keep rates the same. Uh, you know, the latest prediction I've heard on the Fed meeting next week is 97% chance of a 25 basis point cut, which, you know, right now, I can't think to Wednesday, as silly as it sounds, you know, thinking of the economy when I still have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to get through, and there's so much stuff. I mean, we started to say this beforehand. We got the job openings tomorrow as well as consumer confidence. Then on Wednesday we got ADP, which everybody thinks is always a precursor to non-farm, which it really isn't. But of
Right.
ADP and then GDP, and then on Thursday, just to get you crazy, besides initial jobless claims, we got the PCE number, the personal consumption expenditure, which is the Fed's favorite number.
Which is, yeah, Powell's, his
Yeah.
go-to number.
And
Yeah.
then when you think you've just about had enough, wait a minute. 8:30 on Friday, we got non-farm payroll. Now we're expecting 110,000, which means the number's going to be anywhere from 50 to a half a million because nobody ever could figure this one out. You know,
And we'll let you know really what it was next
and then
December.
right, no, that's right. And then the next month we'll tell you what the revision was, so you know what it really was. Unemployment
Yeah.
should stay around 4.1%. I guess these other numbers will, will keep the market. But to me, these are exciting
All of these
times.
all of these numbers to me are just momentary flashes. I the PCE number is going to go into the Fed's book, and they're going to decide. They're going to speak on that. I don't think it's going to impact this meeting. It's going to impact the next meeting. The unemployment claims, the jobless numbers, the non-farm payroll number. To me, that's all going to go in. This next 2 week period is dominated by what happens next Tuesday. And
Which,
I will tell you,
yeah,
I just went to vote early in New Jersey, and it's something I've never done before. I've always been the guy that, on
yeah,
election
get
day,
online.
you go and you vote on election day. And I've always, on election day, you walk in, you walk out.
All right,
There's nobody in front of you. Maybe there's one person. There's two old ladies at the polling place, and, one's knitting and the other is taking care of something. It was 50 minutes, Ted.
really,
It was 50 minutes walking in, and where I went to vote in Monmouth County, New Jersey, there were 10 polling workers to verify who you were, to give you a physical paper ballot, and then there were 7 voting machines. So think about how long that took.
really.
Still 7 voting machines, and it still took 50 minutes to get the win. And the woman that verified me, I says, has it been like this? She says, it's been crazy. So people are coming out. Everybody wants to have their voice heard.
No, I think this is gonna. You think this will probably go down as the one of the biggest amounts of one the most people voting.
Yeah, biggest turnout.
What will which way it'll go? I don't know, but I'll ask you a question. And no politics. We don't talk about that. That's not. No one cares what we think of as far as who's going to win, who's going to lose. So the Fed starts on Tuesday, and they start talking about what's going on with the economy, and they're going to review all the numbers and blah 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 blah. They don't vote till Wednesday.
Right.
Will the election have anything to do with the way they vote?
I think it will, but I think they'll never confirm
Oh
it.
no no no! I'm not. We're not talking. We're not talking
Yeah,
about that.
I think it absolutely has to. And we know that, Trump has always been pressuring the Fed. Trump wants to be a board member of the Fed. So, he wants to sit at the meeting. He wants to be the chairman. He wants Powell's job too.
Right. But
And I think there will be pressure on the Fed to lower rates.
so
And
so they'll lower. So in other words, and we'll talk about both sides. So we'll be fair.
mhm,
Let's start with first. It's decided around 1 o'clock Wednesday morning. We're both up waiting because we're crazy and idiots. Kamala Harris has confirmed she will be the next president of the United States. Does that affect the vote by the Fed on Wednesday? Now, we're not talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about Kamala Harris. Will they still lower rates 25 basis points as expected? Will they possibly pause just because the fluttering of inflation numbers and maybe go 50 points in December to exercise the last 50 points they expected in 2024? So
I,
would that
I
have
think
something
a
to do with it?
Harris, I think a Harris victory is a pause. I think a Trump victory is a 25 basis points cut.
Okay,
It
so
appeases both
yeah, so
sides.
we can't argue with each other because we actually both agree with. I no, I 100% agree with that. Um, I think the only way you see a pause would be just, if for nothing else, just for the board members to get a feeling of what she really is. Because I still don't know. I mean, you can get the rantings and ravings of Republicans as to what she really is, and you can get the comments from Democrats of what she really is. But I don't know what she really is yet.
Mhm.
So maybe if she gets elected and now she's in charge, she can say a few things to give you an idea which way the economy. I know we talked about the capital gains and all of that stuff. If he gets elected, we know what's going on. I mean, he's made it pretty clear what's going on. Taxes, somebody said to me the other day, "Well, what about his views on Social Security?" And I said, well, without telling you who I'm going to vote for, I said, from what I understand, I still don't know what her view is on Social Security. But I know he said that as far as he's concerned, he's going to push for senior citizens collecting Social Security not to pay taxes on their Social Security. Well, I'm a senior citizen. I collect Social Security. I know I won't get credit for this, Freddie, but I said this 5 years ago. Why am I paying taxes on a pension that I paid for when I first was working? So
Yep.
that's not the reason I would or wouldn't vote for him, but at least I know an idea.
But he's also brought up, and whether it's doable or not, no tax on tips, right? And no tax on overtime. I think that's huge. No tax on overtime. Think of what it does. It incentivizes people. I know somebody who works a lot of overtime,
Yeah.
and he says, I have to work overtime because there's nobody to do the job. So I have to physically be here. If the people that work with him finally had an opportunity to make an extra 25, 30% more by working another 4 hours a night or 3 hours a night or whatever it is, I think you'll see that. You'll see people stepping up and doing that job.
And again, you know,
And that's not tax the rich
no,
either.
no. I mean,
You know?
like I said, we spoke earlier about the rally yesterday. I've come to the conclusion that you really have to read. If you can't read one paper or one news media online, you have to determine who your liberal media is, and I'm not giving any plugs to anybody, and who your conservative media is. And then you have to take the effort and take the time every morning if you want to be informed to read both sides. All
Mhm.
right. I can tell you that the two New York City morning papers outside of the New York Times, I won't mention their names, but one had a left-handed slant on the rally yesterday, one had a right-handed slant on the rally yesterday, and when you read both responses, you would have thought they were talking about two different rallies.
Yeah.
So somebody's full of baloney and
But
somebody's not, or they're both full of baloney. I mean, I don't know.
that's the problem that we've had as a society over the last, I guess it's 30 years now, 30 years, I guess, 35 years, where the media, 600 channels that have to fill up 24 hours of news, they give you the ability to look in the mirror. You can hear, Tim says this all the time. If you thought that eating babies was a wonderful thing. I'm sure you could find the channel. They'll give you that. You'll find some reporter somewhere that'll
No, it's the
verify.
truth. I mean, as
It's hard,
wonderful as the internet is as bad as the internet is.
yeah.
You know, what do you mean? Well, they said it on the internet, so it's got to be true. I mean, we all know that's a. I
And
just find it, you know, there are not many people who have the time or the interest or the effort to take opposing views and try to figure out which is right, which is wrong. It goes back to the thing we've talked about a couple of weeks ago regarding regarding polls. You know, we're both, you know, pretty much out of the workforce, working things from home and things like that. If you're sitting in an office, and I said this to a friend right before I got on with you, you're 45 years old, you're in an office, you're at break time or lunchtime, and there's six of you in there, and all of a sudden the boss comes in and decides to say, "So who are all you guys voting for?" And before you open up your mouth, five other people say, "Oh, we're voting for Harris," and you see him smile. And, Freddie, I didn't hear who you. Oh, no, I'm voting for Harris. You know, of course you are, because if you said Trump, not that you are or aren't, if you said Trump, now you've got five coworkers looking at you, and you got the boss. No, so polls mean nothing. The only
that was
poll
2016. That
the
was the
only poll that
2016 issue.
means something is what you did today. When you flip the lever, that's the poll that means something. So we go back and look at the vote, at the betting. You know, well, look, bettors can be wrong. How many people bet the Colts against the Jets in the third Super Bowl? And so betting can be wrong. You know,
Yeah,
how many people
but yeah,
bet the
that was
Jets yesterday
2016.
against New England? How many people were wrong? You know,
But that was 2016 when Trump was underpolled. There were people
yeah,
that just didn't
you
feel
know,
comfortable. He was a pariah, so you couldn't say you were voting for him. So
you go out
you
to
hid
dinner on
behind
a
your phone.
Saturday night with three other couples, and you know you're just talking, and you can sense the feeling that their political views are different than yours. These are your friends. You're not you're just not you're just going along with it. That's why I think you can't believe any of these polls. Are they tied? I don't know. You know what made them tied? I mean, she was up ahead, and now they're tied. It seems from what you see from her, she seems to believe that she's lost some momentum. You know, he could be down 10 points. He'd still be the same as he was if he was up 10 points. So that's why I say I just leave it alone. I think it's funny to watch these two, but one of the things that really bothers me is that the fact that they've eliminated Joe Biden from everything. You know,
Well, further to your point, I read something at the beginning of this election cycle where the reporter was saying, I can't tell you who's going to win or I can't tell you who's going to lose, and you're going to make up your mind of who you're going to vote for. But just look at the person who seems like they're having the most fun. Chances are they're going to win. And I've thought about that a lot on these last couple of weeks. The
okay,
person who's
who's
having
having the
the most
most fun?
well, you tell me.
Well, I mean,
You see somebody that
She's always
squirms.
smiling, and he's
I
always,
know, but I see somebody that squirms with interviews
yeah.
and somebody that's
You
taking them
know,
on.
like I said, you know, I didn't see any tape of it. It must have been fun watching Hulk Hogan walk out to "I Am a Real American." I don't know if he
I
ripped
didn't
off his
see
shirt.
that
I don't know if he
either.
ripped off his shirt or not. Um, I will say one thing: when you talk about stuff, you know, just an observance. Melania's decided to take this thing seriously. I mean, the fact that she showed up yesterday was, to me, means something. It
Hmm.
really does. Now, you could say, well, she's in New York because Barron's in New York and this was in New York. It was convenient. She jumped in a cab. You know, I mean, you know, kidding. But, you know, but the fact that she was there, and the fact that there seems to be a lot of, you know, hammering about Doug Emhoff and his past. She just came out with a book and nobody's even talking about it, which is good. Nobody should be talking about her book in terms of the election. You know, how she came to be what she is, her life story. I'm sure it's interesting at some point, you know, whatever. Uh, but I'm just, you know, to me, it's like, wait a minute, something serious. You know, she all of a sudden decided this was serious. Because what I did read was she would appear Like if you wanted Melania to come to a rally you were staging, she would appear for a fee. Okay, you know, in like the last 5 6 months, she appeared at the convention with him. She sat next to him, but she didn't speak. She issued a
Right.
statement. Well, that's a little surprising.
Right.
It's like, and of course, the conspiracy theorists are she's getting ready to divorce him. She hates him, blah, blah. And maybe she does, and maybe she is, and maybe she will. But she showed up yesterday. You look at little things.
But now let's look at how all of this affects the markets going forward. I know we've spoke about it in the past. My feeling has always been that Trump, as I mentioned earlier, wants the Fed to lower the front end, and the market is going to have a hard time funding this deficit. So we're going to have some supply problems in the back end. Treasury auctions are going to be not well received, so we're going to see back end rates higher. I think the dollar is going to be under pressure regardless of who's in office. So I think the first quarter, the first half of the year next year is going to be a troubled time for the dollar. And the equity markets, I think it really is going to depend on tax policy and where it goes. I think there are some sectors you got to be sector wise. I've said this with Tim in the past, and I'll repeat it here to you. If Trump is elected, and if Trump tabs RFK to be health education or health human services, I think Big Pharma's in trouble. I think he's going to go after Big Pharma in a way, and I think it's something to keep in mind going forward. That and I've argued with our mutual friend in North Carolina, who's told me no. He says try, um, the incoming administration is going to pressure insurance companies to accept some of these weight loss drugs, and
Right.
but I can't see RFK Jr. doing that.
Well,
I
RFK
think
Jr. certainly is a radical component of a Trump cabinet. There's no doubt about that. Stepping back to the first thing you said, I'll agree with you on the equity markets. I think the equity markets will improve regardless who's elected, personally. I disagree with you about the dollar, and I don't think the dollar will be as affected as you think it will be by the presidency as by the economy. All right. Now, if you say to me, if Kamala Harris is elected, our economy will continue to strengthen, and will continue to beat inflation and things of that nature, then the dollar could ease up a little bit. But the biggest thing that you have to look at with the dollar is not so much the election, but how does the U.S. economy reflect against the world's economies? All right. The dollar's not going down against the pound right now because the pound's in trouble. The dollar's not going down against the yen right now because the yen has as much political, if not more political uncertainty than we do. The euro, Germany's a mess. Until they get that under control, it's not going down there. There is still the safe haven outlet that people talk about, and that has to do with the Middle East. I mean, look how
But the dollar is weakening against gold. It's weakening
it's
against
weakening
silver.
against certain commodities, but it's not weakening against the currencies. I'll
Yeah,
agree with you. Gold is
yeah,
at record highs. That's true.
yeah.
But look what happened to oil over the weekend. You know,
Hmm.
Israel retaliates against Iran, but basically just slaps them in the face. They don't go after anything seriously, right? So oil traders and the like say, okay, th- you know,
Now it's
this
over.
is slowing down a little bit, maybe, and they're not going after the oil fields, and oil drops 6%.
Right.
Then Egypt comes up and is trying to broker a peace agreement, a ceasefire agreement. All of these things, all right? The dollar having risen 8% over the last couple of weeks, is in for some profit taking. So, and I'm not, if whoever gets elected on Tuesday, if the dollar comes off, you're right. The election proved it, but did it, or is it profit taking? You have to take the wide range of the levels of the market. Yeah, you want to talk in individuality, 108.10, 107.90, that's irrelevant.
Right.
If the election concludes and euro goes to 110, that's significant. If the election
Right.
concludes and euro goes to 105, that's significant. So I'm saying, if the dollar index, if the U.S. dollar trading index goes back to testing 100, well, then your scenario is right, and I'm not disagreeing
Yep.
with it.
We'll see that over the next two
You know,
weeks
is the
as
is
we go.
the is the president elect going to come out and say, now that I've won this election, I think we need to lower interest rates further. I think we need to get interest rates down to 0%. Or is the president elect going to say, I believe in a strong dollar policy, and I believe that our rates are well where they are. The Fed's doing a good job. I'm just making things. In other words,
Right.
nobody's saying anything until they've got the name in front of them. No one wants to look. The last thing you want to do at this point of the game, you don't want to piss off anybody.
Right.
No, it's so close to the end. Think of it as a football game. You don't want to commit a turnover.
Did
You
you
want to
see?
run the clock. What?
Speaking of that, did you
Do
see
we
that
have to?
play? We have no. I'm not going to talk about the Jets. Did you see the Washington Commanders' final play against the Bears, and the guy, the defensive back, taunting the Washington crowd, Chicago
As
DB,
the ball gets
taunting the
snapped.
Washington crowd with 4 seconds left, and he's running down, yelling at the fans, and he's the one who tipped the ball to the to
You
the
know,
Commanders.
they call it a Hail Mary. It came about, I think, back with Roger Staubach and the Dallas Cowboys against the Minnesota Vikings. They called it that's the Hail Mary, and everybody talks about the Hail Mary. It doesn't happen more often than it does happen. Uh, in my mind, that taunting player is not to be blamed for tipping the ball backwards, but there were when you have when you throw a Hail Mary pass in football, and you've got 6 or 7 guys congregating, somebody's going to get the. It becomes almost like a basketball game. All right,
Absolutely,
nobody was guarding the guy that caught the ball. Somebody should have
exactly.
been on him, like to
Somebody
get.
should have been back there.
If
Yep, I'm
somebody was
not going to
guarding
understand.
him, he doesn't catch the ball, Chicago wins. So yeah, will
Yep,
this guy get reamed in the team meetings today and tomorrow about paying? He is a 2-year player. He's not a veteran. Yes, he'll get reamed. Will he get cut? No, he's a good player. They're not going to cut him. But that goes back to the old my response. Players now at Sports Center. You were a trader for how many years? You made money. You lost money. When you were long whatever currency you were trading with, and you thought it was going to go down, and you hit the bid, and you squared up, and then all of a sudden the thing collapsed. Did you get up and start going like this and go me me me? No, because you did your job. You
that's
know,
right.
if the guy would have blocked the ball from that guy catching it at the end of the game to save the game, yeah, okay, fine. But 1st and 10 with 14:37 left in the first quarter, and you make a tackle and you stand up and punch your chest. What are you crazy? You're doing your job.
That's right.
But
That's
that's the
right.
that's the Sports Center effect in sports. That's the Sports Center
Everybody
effect.
wants. Yep,
You know,
they want
it
that
was
video
it was
clip.
exciting though. I have to tell you, to see something like that, it's always exciting. Jets, we don't have to talk about that. That was terrible last night, but I thought it was not funny. I'm not a Jet fan. I'm a Giant fan. They're going to get their rear ends busted
We have
tonight.
that conversation
So,
tomorrow.
but I thought it was really funny. Every morning when I get up and write my commentary on the side television, at 5 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock your time, I'm always turning on Boomer and Geo, CBS Sports. And I said to somebody the other day, I said, well, last night I said, well, after what happened in the Jet game, they won't even talk about the Yankees till the 7 o'clock hour. And it's the first hour they were just all Jets, and so it's like, oh yeah, by the way, the Yankees are down 0-2 in the World Series. Coming up, we'll talk about nobody really. It's like we'll get to that later. You know,
So how do you feel about your Yanks down 0-2 coming home?
Well, Joe Torre said many, many years ago that it's not a series until you win a game in the other guy's ballpark. So
Right.
obviously, when you start off in the first, you want to split to get that home series advantage. You didn't, so now you have to come home and protect your turf. If the Yankees win tonight, it's 2-1, and it's still a World Series because we're protecting our turf. The Yankees lose tonight, except for the 2004 Red Sox against the Yankees. Nobody's coming back from fourth straight. They're not coming back. One of the things that they make a big deal about now is if you're going to lose the World Series, lose it away. In other words, the Yankees don't want the Dodgers celebrating at Yankee
Yeah,
Stadium.
your home
So,
park.
do they win two out of? One pitch, one inning, one game. That's the way you got to look at tonight. I heard they're going to give big cheers to Aaron Judge. I would like to see Aaron Judge get his head out of his rear end and get a couple of hits. The thing I would like to see, everybody wants to see him hit a ball 500 feet. No, I want him to go 3 for 4 tonight, two doubles and a single, and knock
Right.
in 3 runs. The Yankees have not gotten clutch hits. The Dodgers have. Uh, you know,
Dodgers did against the Mets too.
yeah, but the Mets over the last run that they had to get them to where they got, they always would what I refer to as they tacked on. They were winning 3-2. Now they're winning 5-2. Then it was 5-3. Now it's 7-3, 7-4, 9-4. They were always tacking on. The Yankees seem to hold on. They get a lead and then they hold on. Except of course on Friday night they didn't hold on. We don't have enough time to talk about Aaron Boone right now, so we're not going to do that. But it just seems to me that the Dodgers are playing better fundamental baseball. Period. Who's the better team? The Dodgers. The one thing I will say, it won't happen tonight. There's no way in the world that the Dodgers should play Shohei Ohtani tonight. Let him rest. You're up 2 games to none. Let him rest. Even if you lose tonight, you still only have to take 2 out of the next 4.
That's right.
Let him get healthier. So what'll probably happen is they'll all talk about how he's ailing in the first pitch tonight, and they'll hit a home run. But
Is it a dislocated shoulder? Is that
it's
what
a
it is?
slightly dislocated shoulder. It's his right shoulder, so it's not his power shoulder when he's hitting because he's a left-hander.
Right.
Like I said, the world attendance-wise, television viewers-wise, it's setting records, which is what Fox wanted. They didn't want Cleveland in. They didn't want Mets Yankees, as we said. This is it: East versus West, Dodgers versus Yankees, good guys versus bad guys. Hollywood versus Broadway. It's everything you want. They'll if you turn it on tonight, it'll be exciting to hear the introductions in the beginning, and that stadium will become as silent as a church if the Dodgers go up 3-0 quickly. But I did get a thing from SeatGeek today. All right,
Okay.
cheapest seat you can get at Yankee Stadium tonight on SeatGeek, $895, standing room only, upper deck, standing room only. In 2000, I bought 6 tickets to see the Yankees Mets in Game 1, and I was out in the bleachers. The tickets were $300 a ticket. I bought 6 tickets. For the family, we were coming from Pittsburgh. I clicked on the same $1,891 a ticket tonight for the same seat size. Now it's 24 years difference, and there is inflation, but
That's inflation.
that is so. I'm in Tennessee, so I have no choice but to watch it on television. But
Right.
I wouldn't be there. It's become ridiculous.
Yeah. You come to a certain point where they said they don't want you as a fan.
No, when you watch the game, and you see those people sitting behind home plate, you could be there tonight on SeatGeek, $8,595 a ticket. You and Ali can go, and the two of you can sit there and root for the Dodgers.
Cheaper twice the price, right?
Anyway,
All right. Well, listen, it was good chatting with you.
it's always
Thanks
great.
again for coming on. We'll try and do this again soon.
We got to do
All right.
something before. Well, we got to do one before the election, whether we do next Monday or Tuesday. You voted already. I'm going to wait till Tuesday to vote because early voting ends here on Halloween, so I don't think I'll get to do it in time.
Tim is still away. I spoke to him over the weekend. He was heading south on the Atlantic. He
Okay.
was about 500 miles off the coast of Africa, stopping at one at Tenerife, I think, a small island off the coast of Africa.
Okay.
He's probably down in Argentina or Brazil right now, and he's going to be there, I guess, for another week or so.
So when he comes back, we'll probably do a whole show on just his stories of his tours. Do you think there'll be at least 3 stories of riotous
what we want to do is get Deacon Rich on and
Yeah.
tell some of the old stories as well. So that would be a lot of fun.
Boy, well, by the way, did you see Ray Brown made a nice
Yeah,
comment about our comments? So thank
that's
you, Ray.
right.
We
Thanks for
appreciate it.
watching.
And thanks
That's
for
right.
watching. And yeah, one of these days you got to do like 8 or 9 of us, and just
Absolutely.
do like a whole thing and just you know foreign exchange reminiscing. That's all
That's
it is.
right.
Yeah.
FX 1970. Here we go.
All right, Freddie, take it
Have a
easy.
great day. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.